Do you have any persons of interest or any suspects in this case?
We have no suspects in this case or persons of interest at this time.
You don't consider Joseph Brewer a person of interest?
We don't consider Joseph Brewer a suspect, and as I said, we have no suspects or persons of interest at this point.
Can you describe the condition of the bodies that were found? Was there anything with the bodies, any jewelry? Is there any identifying items that were with those bodies when you found them?
Are the clothes they were wearing?
Let me speak to the gentleman's point first. Again, as I'm sure you readily understand, the condition of the bodies and the circumstances regarding any personal property that may or may not be part of them is an area that I just can't go into at this point. The integrity of our investigation prevents me from doing so, and I'm sure you all can appreciate that.
At this point, will you say it was just a coincidence that you guys came after looking for Shannan Gilbert and found this? Or do you believe that she might still be
It's no coincidence that we were here looking for Shannan Gilbert. That was the whole reason for our searches here over the last number of months. We had and have an active missing persons case regarding Miss Gilbert, and that's what brought us out here, to try and find her.
She disappeared in May.
Please, one at a time. The gentleman here. Oh, I can't speculate on what I think happened. I can't engage in hypothetical reasoning on something such as this. We have, as you know, the remains of 4 persons, and the important thing right now, and what we're focusing on, and I'm sure you can appreciate, is that number one, we have to identify these remains. That's going to take weeks, if not months, and the fact or the possibility remains that we may not be successful in making an identification on each one of them. I'm sorry.
that has linked all 4 cases so far?
Other than the location, no.
Would you consider that a graveyard for this supposed serial killer, if that's what you're dealing with?
Well, first of all, we have no idea whatsoever that we're dealing with a serial killer. And I think it's important to note here that discussion regarding these persons as being victims of a murderer or being murdered is speculative at best. We don't know and will not know for weeks the manner of death. So for us to use terminology such as murdered victims or serial killers, that would be presumptuous, and it does not advance our investigation whatsoever for us to engage in such a discussion.
Is it possible,
Yes,
Inspector, is it possible that this might be something else? For example, people who died from natural causes, some sort of, like in several parts of the country, they've had funeral homes that have disposed of remains illegally. Is that still a possibility that it may not be a serial killer?
The gentleman brings up a very good point. That is possible. Anything, literally, ladies and gentlemen, anything is possible at this point because there's so many unanswered questions. You have them, and quite frankly, so do our investigators that are looking into this.
Was there a tip that led you to believe that Shannan Gilbert might be buried out here, or was it just acting on that missing persons time?
No, we were pursuing a missing persons investigation. That's what brought us here. That's how we found what we did last Saturday.
Are the victims all women? Or
Yes.
the bodies are all women?
Yes, they're all women.
Why do you believe it improbable that these remains contain this water? You were saying before it's improbable that
It's based on the facts and circumstances that we've developed in our investigation.
Can you
Leads
elaborate
us to.
just a little
Is it the
No, I
decomposition
prefer
or-
not to. I prefer not to.
Is
sir.
it about the age of the
describe
body? In other words, it's the remains that have been found seem to be too old on first examination to be from June?
Well, you bring up a very good point. Upon first examination, and we can't go and make a determination based on first examination. We're looking at, that is, the medical examiner's office is literally looking at weeks of work in trying to reach such a conclusion. So I'd rather not state a hunch based on a first examination.
Was the extensiveness of your search, the bringing the New York State police to help out, was that due to tips that you had received regarding further intelligence about this case, or was it just to be extra sure that you had covered everything, as you said, to go over every rock?
We in the law enforcement community help one another. It is certainly not uncommon for the Suffolk County Police Department to enlist the assistance of our law enforcement partners at the federal, the state, and the local level. And the New York State Police graciously lent their assistance in this matter. They sent down 10 canine teams from across the state to Suffolk County yesterday. It's part of the mutual aid that we engage in, and we clearly appreciate their help.
Sir,
Yes.
Can you found the first body. Originally, you guys said it was a regular training routine. You guys didn't say you were actually looking for someone. It was a training routine, and the cop was just like training. And then 2 days later, you go back and find 3 more bodies. Obviously, there's got to be some source, right, that's found any bodies in this location.
We were not.
Typical procedure to go back 2 days later.
Let me respond to that. We were not doing a routine training mission at all. As I've said already, we were conducting a search for a missing person. That's what brought our canine personnel here in the first place.
Can you elaborate on the identity, the ruling out of Shannan Gilbert as a potential victim or a potential person that has identities for violence? How is it that you were able to make that determination in just a couple of days? And how does that differ from the Waterman case, for example, which might take weeks or months?
Well, what we did, and I think this has already been reported, we were able to obtain medical records regarding treatment that Ms. Gilbert received for a prior injury. And once we obtained those records, the medical examiner's personnel compared those records to the 4 bodies that they had at the morgue, and a determination was made that Shannan Gilbert couldn't be among the 4.
And do you see that as a setback, or do you see that as a frustration in getting somehow returned back to square one?
Well, this is the interesting thing about a criminal investigation, particularly one of this magnitude. They don't proceed in a straight line from beginning to end. There are all sorts of twists and turns. We come to crossroads, and sometimes we go down a number of avenues all at the same time. Sometimes we run into roadblocks on those roads, and that's just another glitch in our investigation, so to speak. And you know, we deal with it, and then we move on, as we're doing right now.
Inspector, are you preparing?
Your interview with Mr. Brewer?
I did not interview Mr. Brewer.
Your detectives would have.
No, Mr. Brewer voluntarily consented to being interviewed by us. As you know, we re-interviewed him recently. He's been most cooperative, and we appreciate his help in this matter.
He claims to have passed the polygraph test. Is that true?
He was administered a polygraph test, and I know that's also been reported in the media. Yes.
So the other day,
I'm sorry.
You come back looking for more in this area.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
After the first body was found in the missing person search, why did you come back here and search again, possibly looking for more bodies?
Well, we were looking for actually more evidence regarding our initial finding last Saturday.
Is there anything in the remains of those bodies that indicates how they died?
I can't comment regarding the condition of the remains, and that clearly is a determination to be made by the medical examiner and not by me.
Why is it now in New York City as opposed to Suffolk County?
Well, New York City has lent their assistance in our investigation.
Yeah, forensic pathology.
the other day,
You know, I know we had at least a half a dozen or so.
Total was 11. There were 11
okay.
canine teams out
so
there.
the other day that the police commissioner said he believes that the bodies were driven up here by a car and dumped out of a car. So you're saying that possibly isn't the case now, or?
Well, that's possible, but again, we're not certain yet. We're not certain.
Inspector, you have a situation where now it appears that the Gilbert case may have nothing to do with it. She has been eliminated as one of those 4. Is this an incredible coincidence that defies the odds that 4 bodies would be found a few miles from here when you have that missing woman with the Craigslist connection and prostitution. How would you describe that kind of coincidence?
Well, I think your words are particularly apt. This is an incredible coincidence for sure. But yet, until we complete our investigation, we're not going to be able to make a determination. But yes, it may be a coincidence, and it may not. We're not sure at this point.